and welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Curemark is a biopharmaceutical company based in Rye, New York that has a phase 3 clinical trial of an investigational new medication called CMAT for children with autism between the ages of 3 and 8 years old. The trial is called the Blum Study and is currently enrolling at over 30 clinical centers across the United States. Now, joining us today, we have Jzaneen Lalani, the Chief Operating Officer, and Matthew Heil, the Chief Scientific Officer. Welcome to the show.
Hi there, Nancy.
Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
Thanks. Nice to be here.
Okay, the Blum Study. It's a phase 3 clinical trial for children with autism between the ages of 3 and 8, as we said. Can you tell us a bit more about what a clinical trial is? And then we can talk about the clinical trial process.
Sure. So this is something that we determined was definitely an area that we needed to help educate on, not just for our trial, but just in general, so families considering clinical trials in the future have a better understanding. A clinical trial is really the one way that researchers can test new medications so that they can go up against the current standard of care, or if there is no standard of care, develop a standard of care for a disease or a disorder. A clinical trial can't be done by anybody, and that's a really important piece. You have to go through a fairly lengthy process of designing the clinical trial, going to the FDA, presenting the clinical trial to them, getting their approval and clearance to begin the clinical trial process, and then from there you go to what's called an institutional review board, which is another entity that's actually charged with the safety of the patient. And so they review the protocol, which is the design of the study, to make sure that patient safety is addressed and patients are well protected. From there, you go down another level, which is, as in this study, we have over 30 clinical sites. Every clinical site has to review the protocol. The doctor reviews the protocol. If that site has an IRB, they look at the protocol, and then once they've signed off, then they can start enrolling subjects into this study. So a clinical trial also has many phases to it, which I think is also another important thing that people don't quite know. It's a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and then you can go to the FDA to request approval. Phase 1 is a smaller study, usually using healthy volunteers to maybe check dosing, set parameters, early parameters. Then you go to phase 2, where you are looking at efficacy. And then you go to phase 3, which is a larger study, as in the Blum study, which is a phase 3 study. And we're enrolling 300 kids into this study. That is the study the phase 3 study is the one that you do before you go to the FDA to ask for approval. So we are now in our second phase 3 study, and the first phase 3 study was completed and CMAT, which is the study drug, was found to be safe and generally well tolerated in that study. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
So, well, Dr. Heil, I'm wondering if you could tell us more about this investigational, that was more than I could handle today, investigational drug that you're testing. It's called CMAT?
CMAT.
CMAT.
Letters for the designation right now. It was based upon an observation that our founder made early on in her practice a number of years ago, and that was that she was seeing a lot of children with autism, and she noticed that there was a commonality amongst them, and it had to do with the way they selected their diet. They had a selective diet that seemed to shy away from sources of protein, emphasized a lot of carbohydrate, pastas and things like that. And the protein that was eaten was very highly processed. And she thought this was an odd thing, especially given the spectrum of symptoms that autistic children can demonstrate. So looking into it further and doing a number of tests on things, she found that there were a number of autistic kids deficient in an enzyme that they use in the digestion of protein. This enzyme is produced by the pancreas and it's secreted into the small intestine, and it's called chymotrypsin. It has a very important particular purpose in digestion. It digests proteins and releases amino acids, especially a group of amino acids called the essential amino acids. These are ones that we have to obtain from our food. Our body cannot make them from anything else. And amino acids, essential and otherwise, are used by the body, of course, to make other proteins. But other things they do that are interesting are like they are involved in making neurotransmitters, dopamine and serotonin, which we know are very involved in higher order brain activities like behavior. And they form brain tissues. They are involved in the regulation of toxic substances in the body. So amino acids are involved, it turns out, in a number of things physiologically, not just building more proteins. So with that observation, we have formulated CMAT so that it replaces that enzyme deficiency. We correct what is not present. This is found in about 62%. Our information indicates right now autistic children are missing or have very low levels of chymotrypsin. So CMAT is taken, it's ingested orally, it's provided as a powder, a sprinkle, a granule type thing. It's been formulated so that the taste and the odor are gone. Enzymes can have a strong taste to them. And the color is neutral. And the intention is to sprinkle it on the food, mix it in so it's not readily visible to the child. And they eat their food, and with it they consume the enzyme. It's given 3 times a day with each meal. And this way, our intention is to replace the activity of the missing chymotrypsin. This will, we believe, rebalance the levels of amino acids, especially essential amino acids in the body, and normal physiological functions can take over, even affecting higher order behaviors in the central nervous system. Our trial is entirely focused on outcomes that are involved with autistic behaviors. We don't measure other things. I mean, we look at a number of things in the trial, but our focus is on behaviors. And I think the other thing that is important about it is that we've also formulated so this enzyme specifically goes to the right place in the small intestine, in the very beginning part, where protein digestion begins and is mostly carried out. That's a very important feature of it. So it's been formulated to be easily used by the patients. It addresses a specific deficiency that a large number of autistic children have, and hopefully it's easy for them to take without a taste or an odor.
And
I guess the last thing too is we don't require the children to have any GI upsets. This is purely based on the presence or absence of this enzyme. We found in our earlier work that a child can be deficient in the enzyme, but not manifest any overt GI symptoms. So it's not based on symptomatology.
Okay, and we're going to watch a video here in just a second, but I don't want us to miss the headline because we got a lot of good information there. But the fact that you guys are in your second phase 3 trial, and I know it's difficult for you guys because you're not allowed to make too many claims, but what we're hearing from people who have participated is that you're seeing good results, that they're sprinkling this on the food, it's correcting whatever's going on, and that the end result is that there is a decrease in behaviors that we associate with autism. Can we say that? Can I say that?
The observation. I think of efficacy, there are reports. Ultimately, that has to be decided by the FDA. But certainly the safety data we have had, it's a very safe formulation of a drug. The safety is well understood. And I think that's a real advantage.
Okay,
Wonderful.
So we're going to take a look at a video that explains more about what we've been talking about. Let's take a look.
Now that you know what a clinical trial is, let's look at the Blum Study. The Blum Study is a phase 3 double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled clinical study of CMAT, an investigational biologic study drug for children 3 to 8 years old with autism. Let's break that down. In this type of study, neither the parent nor the doctor knows whether your child is receiving CMAT or placebo. All of the medical professionals that are involved in the Blum Study are trained to work with children with autism. There are up to 9 study visits over 14 weeks. There are no needles, no pills, and autism diagnostic measures are performed. Every child that completes the Blum Study has the opportunity to participate in an open-label extension study where they will receive CMAT. For more information about the Blum Study, visit www.blumstudy.com.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about what a family can expect when they enter the study.
Okay, so as you heard in the video, the study is 14 weeks. Families come in every 2 weeks. What I think a family should expect is it's very much like a doctor's visit. And our sites have been trained to work with children with autism, and many of them have done other studies that have prepared them for this. So the children will go in, there's stool samples that will be delivered every 2 weeks, and visits range from an hour to a little over an hour once you get through the screening process. I think another really important piece of this is that while this is a study for the first 14 weeks that is double-blind, placebo-controlled, which you heard in the video means that for that 14-week period, a child may be getting placebo, which is an inactive substance, or they may be getting CMAT. But what we wanted to make sure of was once that 14-week period of the study is over, any child that has been in the study has access to CMAT in the open label extension study that follows. And that study doesn't have an end date. So if a family chooses to go into the open label study and have CMAT for their child, they can continue to be on CMAT until we know from the FDA whether this drug has been approved or not.
And I think that that's super important. A lot of times, you know, as parents, we have concerns about whether to do a trial or not. And one of the worst things you can imagine is if you try something and your child is responding to it, but the study is over and then it might be another year before it is on the market and then you can get it again. But so nobody needs to be afraid of that. Whether your child starts out in the first 14 weeks and gets the drug, or afterwards it's made available to them. If your child's responding well and you want to keep them on it, this is the only way that you can do it, is by participating in the study. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
So let's find out about how families can find out more. They want to participate. What do they do?
The best place to go is www.blumstudy.com. That's BLUM study.com. And on there, families can watch the videos, longer forms of the one that we showed today, and another video about clinical trials. But they can also put in their zip code, and that will tell them which study center is closest to them. And they can send an email directly to the study center. Okay. They can also just email us at info@blumstudy.com, and we can help them find that site.
And once again, this is at over 30 clinical centers across the United States?
Correct.
Okay. So lots of opportunity there for families across the country.
Absolutely.
An amazing opportunity for families that want to be a part of this study and perhaps be a part of this game-changing breakthrough opportunity. This treatment. Yeah. Well, we thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon and Nancy.
And good luck with everything.
And please keep us posted,
yes,
okay?
We want to, when everything is finished, we want to have you back to talk about all the findings.
Yes.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Thank you.